It's a double launch because we forgot to launch last year's. We did a masterclass workshop with Rue Borson, about a dozen people, and then the next one was with Barry Dempster, and Rue asked us to pick one of the poems that was blue, their blue concept of poem, and Barry said, for Barry, just pick the best one of anything you've done this weekend. And my machine went asleep. Sorry about that. So Sylvia Adams has recent work in 2 poetry collections, the Fieldstone Poets' Whistle for Jellyfish, and for Pachyderm Poets' Sage. And 1 poem each, if we could.
I had 1 poem in each chapbook, but I'm just going to read the one from the second one, the Barry Dempster workshop. And Anita's right, it's dry in here, and so I may be croaking a bit, I hope not. The poem that I wrote, my Rothko poem as it is, I'm sorry I couldn't bring the picture of the painting. I spent a lot of time looking for it today, and I couldn't find it. I didn't like it, and I think maybe I buried it somewhere. In any case, I can tell you it had a lot of red, a rather offensive bright red, and a bit of bright orange, and some bright green on it. And I was really stymied because Carol got the one that I wanted. It had nice blue and yellow in it. So I went online to search Rothko, and I saw he wrote 2 books on art, and there are a lot of quotations from Rothko on art. He was a very interesting man. And so his life, his living and his dying all went into this poem, along with some things from my own life. It's called Corsage Days, and there's a quote from Rothko underneath it. This world of the imagination is fancy-free and violently opposed to common sense. It is a red that comes from watching too much television, or eating berries with frozen hands in winter, or remembering a bloody rose too quarrelsome to pin on your pink gown, so you curled it round your wrist in the days when boys brought corsages. A red you can't hide behind, invades your skin, makes you want to go home before the music dies. A red that needs to be held down and pumped full of blue until it succumbs to violet. The color of risks, something you can't argue with. Primal brain disgorging headlong thoughts. The id, grid, eureka, all that explosive jazzmatazz. The ego's discount clothing nothing matches. Last call, curfew strikes, flag a taxi. Red of the wrath of God, shushed by the superego. At least it's not orange, you say. But look, there's a field green sheepwalk. Orange sweeps the edges clean, locking it all into place, leaving it up to red to offend the humble paper. A red that my mother loved. I could never understand why. Not much talk, but cherry fortrell in the closet, silk polyester rife with dysmorphic carnations, a corsage that wouldn't stop spreading. Maybe she dressed for my father, more prom than risk. It's 1970. The artist is tired, alone. What if he never paints again portals that you can open? Red darkens, aortic war looms, a shadowed door in a night wall. What if the id takes control, while the ego is sleeping. Never listened to mother anyway. Sketches a last rectangle on the kitchen floor by the sink. Holds out bared wrists, ready for spilling blossoms. What if the body risks it all, leaves red everywhere? Thank you.
I guess you all noticed the chapbooks are at the back and they're $5 a piece. Next up is Frances Boyle, whose poetry and fiction have appeared in anthologies, magazines, and awards in Canada and the US.
Thank you. I'm going to read the blue poem from Chromatic Beliefs, the chapbook from the Rue Borison workshop. How's that? Give over to this foot after foot motion, gravel road against boots runs up my bones. Ditch undercuts bank, sandy soil trickled away, lacy layers of root tips hang exposed. Opposite cliff face rises, large irregular blocks seamed, a wall higher than my head. Under sullen sky, a walk, watching out for color. On my own while others walk ahead, behind in pairs and clumps. A thin film, I squeeze the silence for squeaks, oofs, and exhales, wanting not to be always on the other side of this cellophane gel, its stagey indigo light. Blue wells up. Heron across the lake is rumpled. Dead nuthatch, breast feathers beige peach. Its back and folded wings are blue. Give over to blue notes, subtle and overt, silent and crashing. Skyweight gonging against snow. Blue shadows on the white. Blue is motorsport letters on road signs, strings still tethering wilted birthday party balloons. What's natural about blue? Paint blazes stumps in deadfall. More careful paint on houses and fences. Pepsi cans and players' packs. Green lawn chairs, faded. Dark wadded cloth, unfolded and draped on roadside shoulder when I walk this way again. Can I kiss the blue veins of your wrist? Trace where they merge into creamy flesh. Ink flows. I am an open vessel ready for water. Begging bowl to lips I say, please take this acorn cap kiss in pledge.
The speakers is off. Where's Claudia?
Claudia's in the ready? Yes. Claudia is our other lady of chapbooks, and she did the cover for this one.
I just wanted to mention that the books are put out by two presses. Pfaffer's press is Pearl's Press, and Tree Press, of course, is Tree Press. And Tree puts on the workshops, to which we traveled every day to Val-des-Monts. It's a beautiful place, so that extra spot in the John Barton workshop is really worth snapping up. It's worth it in every way, and you might get to be in a chapbook too. The poem I'm going to read is from this book, A Wall's Sharp White. Barry Dempster took us through some exercises, and we were supposed to understand a lot at the end of it about the id, the superego, and the ego. And afterwards he said, now go home with all these notes that you took and write a poem. But also I have this other little challenge. And he went around and gave us a poem, a painting by, what's his name? Mark Rothko. And he handed them out specifically. And if you didn't like the one you got, tough tit. You just had to accept it and work with it. And so you had to incorporate this painting into your poem. Mine was shades of blue, things like that. Would the person who took the stepladder yesterday please bring it back, or further steps will be taken? And now that this painting is to be considered in its earnest blue framing of 3 tonally related rectangles, we can look at the subject in its various lights, yet this is not a painting, as that pipe was not a pipe. As a child, you discovered the pleasures of a white sheet stretched tight. It's all part of these blues, part of what Rothko had in mind that morning. It must have been morning, a foreseeable storm, a dis-ease. See here at the lower edge, murky smirk of could-be sea. We once climbed out of it restless. No need to go back, is there? Above this opaque liquid, a sky not sky. Thick, heavy old milk paint. Take 2 steps back. You make the bed, the sheets are old and thin, a cooled neatness. Smooth, so tight, taut and white. You lie on top of them, read your way to gone. Notice the vibration in the top third, where the brain believes it exists. He's added sienna, raw and pulsing, hint of indigo. Even if you find that you are just like everybody else, bring back the ladder anyway. All will slip into hue, drowning or floating or flying. Thanks.
My poem I'm taking from the Walls Sharp White. T-minus 3 days until Lufthansa. The small pastel green lace wing goes bouldering over sand grains, a moss clod, and then my shoe. Rubber foam upper stitches and over. Even I wouldn't want to take on me, but apparently I'm easier than wet scuffed sand. And up onto my cuff she comes to have a word with management. I flatter myself. For 9 minutes she's content with my mid-shin. I press my finger. It stays flat. I'm dehydrated. And why not, I think, in minute 11? It makes as much sense to talk to my leg as my eye or head. My patience is finite, a commotion of cause. I look back and she's flying from a twig, about as useful as me. And the next person up is Guy.
This is also from A Walls Sharp White. You never know when you stare at one of this guy's paintings what lays beneath the surface. And so things come out. And that's half the fun of it. A sniper's veil. With his spotter beside him now alert, the shooter closes his muggy gillies, leaves a veil peephole just in case. Cheek on fetid ground, he denies sleep, fearing those in his stalking world who watch and creep. In dusk shade, he drifts to the chant of mother's smudge glow, red grieving for his bastard dad. It riles his reptile brain. He mounds up a roar on padded knees, doesn't hear the shot, soars off thunderbird wings. Earth receding, inhale, exhale, nothing. Snake tongue sparks wind up his spine. He sheds, gleams in three-dimensional swastika's spin, exits a slick raven atop his totem. Old Testament on his left, New Testament on his right, watches sunrise burn off the soft red glow of mist with shades of Mum and Dad.
The second last poet for the launch is Carol Stephen. She is a Carleton Place resident poet. In January, one of her poems was sent to the end of the world, or maybe just Osgood.
I'm also going to read my poem from A Wall's Sharp White, but unlike most of the rest, I did not choose the Rothko poem. The first day we went on a poet's walk, and our instructions were to spend a few minutes in each of our senses, and through those senses observe nature, and either an under or overlay of something that we wanted to influence the poem. In my case, it was fear. The poem is called Layers of Soft Wilt, A Walk of Poets. The nothing taste of fallen yellow leaves, grayed wood drifting away from scents of tree, yet anchored still to grounded roots, weathered to the taste of salt. Fingers feel raised ridges in weakened wood, peeling away the layers. A notebook filled with blurred blue words, smudged in raindrops bled from canopy of leaf. A hymn of rain, a solo voice, then many as the sky begins to weep. Silencing birds that sang a beat before the bumble hum of bee. Grass brown and surface wet, grit dry and brittle, whisper deep, the softened skin of rough damp, logs wrapped in spongy fungus shroud, beside spent coals, morn cast off husks of August corn. Air reeks with stink of damp decay, it hovers above abandoned tools, gardener absent from well-loved plot, his shovel sleeps, rust rank on tongue. The questions time could answer if the summer of our lives did not end before our poem is done, leaving a single black-eyed Susan, petal points painted an October shade of brown, and the soft wilt of spent flowers. Thank you.
And the last reader from this bit you've seen around somewhere, I think it's here.